Every single human being is born with this innate inner self. And this inner self is free, it's spontaneous, it's raw, it's expressive, and it encapsulates the fullness of our most unique characteristics. And so according to this process, the entire purpose of one's life is to reveal the qualities of this innate inner self. And so every single decision that we make is unconsciously driven by the desire to individuate, or the desire to bring forth this inner self, this inner uniqueness. And the thing about this inner self is it's something that we're all born with. It's right in the center of who we are. But then it's, over the course of our lives, it becomes shrouded, in what I like to call a cocoon, in a psychological cocoon. Most people call this the ego. It's much more familiar, right? I think the cocoon is a little bit more of an accurate depiction because it kind of explains more of the process of our real relationship with it. And so we take a little bit from our mom, a little bit from our dad, a little bit from this cultural expectation, from this TV show, from that reality show, from all these different things, and we construct this false sense of self. And then when we come upon a spiritual awakening, then the point comes where we begin to break out of this psychological cocoon and begin to reveal the radiance of who we actually are. And I believe that the spiritual life of a human being is composed of two different elements. The first one is the building up of this cocoon, or the building up of the ego, so that way you can go out and you can function in the world, you can make money, you can form relationships, you know how to be social, so on and so forth. And then the second part of one's spiritual life is the breaking out of this cocoon. And then you begin to reveal the nature of who you actually are. And of course, this is an internal process, this sort of breakdown. But it's reflected in our external world, because obviously our external reality is a reflection of our internal reality. So the spiritual awakening is always kind of surrounding someone's life falling apart, It's either your life falls apart and you have a spiritual awakening, or you have a spiritual awakening and your life falls apart. And then so people, they have these spiritual awakenings and they're like, oh my God, I'm being spiritual now, this is wonderful. And then their life ends up in shambles and they're like, oh my God, why is God punishing me? I thought I was doing everything right. Well, if your life falls apart, guess what? That means you're doing everything right. God is rewarding you for breaking down everything that is actually not you. So congratulations. If you're going through hell right now, congratulations. God is rewarding you. And for me personally, I grew up with actually a very weak egoic structure, or a very weak psychological cocoon. I grew up with what most people would call an inferiority complex, basically. And I grew up being one of the most insecure, doubtful, basically self-hating people that you would have ever met, And I remember going through high school and going through college and just being completely shut down, like totally shut down. And I remember on a weekly basis, my fellow students and teachers would ask me, do you know how to speak? Seriously, do you know how to talk? Do you speak English? And I would get asked this. I got asked this for like a decade. And I remember when I was like 15, I was like talking to my parents and I was like, guys, I think I have like a problem. Like I feel like I can't communicate myself. And they're like, oh, don't worry, you'll grow out of it. Come like 21, 22, that age, I was still struggling with this. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like getting ready to go out into the world and I still feel completely inadequate to express myself or to communicate. And so basically this led me to be unbelievably depressed, completely shut down. I felt like I couldn't form authentic connections with people because I for some reason, I felt like I had this inability to communicate and to articulate myself. And so basically this led me to be completely locked within my own mind, completely locked within myself, and to feel completely isolated, even in a room full of people. And so I was just like, oh my God, like what is wrong with me? Why do I feel so alienated all the time? Why can't I express myself? Why can't I articulate myself? And then so when I was about like 21 years old, I basically got to the point where I was suicidal. And I was like, you know, if that's actually who I am, this person that is that insecure, that doubtful, that self-hating, that cannot form these genuine connections with people, if that's actually me, then I don't want to be here. It's either I have to find out if there's anything more to myself than this, or I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to exist. I have to find out if there's actually something more to me than what I've always thought myself to be, basically. So what happened was basically at this point, this was sort of my awakening period. And at this point, my life took a really sharp 90-degree turn. And I remember I was going to be on my way to going to grad school and pursuing a master's degree in music, and I was going to be a college professor, basically. And I remember the very day that I was supposed to pay my tuition to go to college and to pursue that path, I ended up not paying it and going off on a road trip across the country to find myself, basically. I was like, I have to find out who I am. This is insane. So that led to a very long, mystical journey, full of a lot of tragedy, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of synchronicities, a lot of miracles, a lot of really beautiful experiences.